Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Maria. If you watch this video and you enjoy it, don't be shy, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissistic abuse recovery and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Today we have video 5 in our Triangulation series, and this one is about how triangulation can scare the scapegoat into silence. So in the last video on triangulation, I talked about the narrative that the narcissistic parents have about the scapegoat child in particular. So because of this narrative, we have to understand triangulation to begin with, and how the narcissistic parent will speak to the different siblings and create narratives about each one of them as if this narrative were to be true. So the siblings become triangulated or estranged from each other because the narcissistic parent is creating a narrative to pin them against each other. The whole point of triangulation is that the narcissistic parent is at the center. So the golden child speaks to the narcissistic parent, the invisible child to the narcissistic parent, and the scapegoat to the narcissistic parent, but they don't speak to each other, okay? They become estranged. So this is what triangulation is. So in the last video, we talked about the different narratives that the narcissistic parent could have about the scapegoat. So in this video, we're going to talk about how these narratives that are put on the scapegoat can cause them to act out by a way of just silencing themselves, out of fear. So, like we had talked about in the last video, triangulation starts at such a young age, and these narratives are placed on the children at such a young age that a lot of times the children internalize these narratives and they start playing them out. They start living out as if this is who they are as a person. They don't get a chance to become an individual, have a strong sense of self, and be able to grow in a healthy way. They have this negative narrative on them, and they end up living out whoever this narrative is that was created about them. Well, a lot of times the scapegoat, the narrative is going to be something negative. Okay, the scapegoat did something wrong. The narcissistic parent will always play the victim. So the scapegoat did something wrong that hurt the narcissistic parent. Okay, but the narcissistic parent is not at fault, right? This is strictly because the scapegoat, there is something wrong with them. All right, whatever it may be, whether it's mental health problems, they're just a mean person, they're not a compassionate, they don't care about the narcissistic parent, they're not smart enough, whatever this narrative is, this negative narrative, it now follows around the scapegoat. So what does this cause the scapegoat to do? This causes a scapegoat to grow up internalizing these things and to thinking in their mind, there is something wrong with me. So if you are someone who grew up in a family who is triangulated and you became an adult and you feel as if you are not good enough, you are not worthy, you are never going to get that good job, and you have this negative inner critic that comes along with having complex post-traumatic stress disorder from long-term emotional abuse, then maybe you were the scapegoat in this role of triangulation. These inner dialogue thoughts, these negative things that play in your mind, these I am not worthy, I am not good enough thoughts, were outside voices. These outside voices were the narrative of the narcissistic caretaker. Maybe, because emotional abuse is also considered, bullying is also considered emotional abuse. Maybe this came from bullying, but nonetheless, these were outside voices that you have attached, and you grew up having these for so long that you now believe that it is a part of who you are, a part of your identity, a part of yourself, and it is not. So these outside voices create this human being inside of you that is very uncomfortable because you never actually got to have that strong sense of self when you were growing up. This was placed upon you. So a lot of times the scapegoat walks through life thinking there is something wrong with me. You don't know what it is exactly, but you feel as if there is something wrong with you. Okay? So this is something that a lot of scapegoats go through. If this sense of there is something wrong with me is something that you deal with, you are not alone. So maybe when you grew up or right now in your adult life, you notice that you're a people pleaser or you need outside validation. Well, think back on your childhood when you did something that your narcissistic parent was happy about or, said, that's great, good job, whatever. That was your form of validation. So you now live to know that your right decisions are the decisions that the narcissistic parent validated, and the wrong decisions are anything that they were against. So now we step into this world where maybe we become aware that we are victims of triangulation, that we were the scapegoat of the family, or maybe the invisible child, or maybe the golden child. Regardless, we are aware of this narcissistic family dynamic. When a scapegoat walks into this role, we are now in uncharted territory, right? Because now we are no longer in a family unit, the broken, shell of a person, but we are on the outside looking in. Okay, so now we see the abuse that is taking place. We see that this false narrative has been placed on us. We see that this narrative has been given to the siblings, and this is the reason as to why the siblings are not talking. And we see how our narcissistic parent is living life through the lens of a victim, right? Living in this victim mentality. And that is what everything has been revolving around. This is where it gets tricky being a scapegoat when we become aware. So a lot of times when we're the scapegoat and we become aware, we are working out of our emotions, right? We're angry, we're mad, we're hurt. We are working out of our right emotional brain, and our left logical brain may have shut down. So being able to get our point across, you may even notice that when you try to get your point across to the narcissistic parent, they become very calm and tell you that you are acting as if you are crazy. You have to look at these things and realize that a narcissist is not going to like when they are being called out. A lot of times when a scapegoat becomes aware of their surroundings, they silence themselves. They get quiet because they feel as if they're in an alternate universe where it is everyone against them. And that very well may be how you're feeling right now. I think that anyone that's a scapegoat at some point in time, when you really realize it's a lot of pain to know that your family members or especially your narcissistic parent who is supposed to be protecting you is actually the person that's been creating a false narrative about you most of your life, and that hurts, right? So it's hard to figure out what to do with these feelings. Well, I want you to understand that you are not alone, okay? There are so many people walking around in this world who are scapegoats of triangulation of narcissistic families. Many of these people never face it. They never come out and face any of this, and they never go through a healing journey. But if you want to live in a fulfilled life, there is an entire healing journey after that step to actually get into your subconscious mind and reprogram your thought process so that you are able to think thoughts that are different than the current thoughts of I am not worthy, I am not good enough. And you're able to live a healthy life believing the narrative that's the true narrative. that is not attached to the trauma that has been brought upon you in your childhood and throughout your life. So a healing journey comes and we don't know how to speak out for ourselves with this because, you know, remember, a lot of times narcissists are covert, so they are liked by other people. Other people on the outside aren't going to believe that they are narcissists, so our first inkling is to tell everyone, to warn everyone, to, you know, it's very hard to understand that keeping this in check and really focusing on our healing journey. So focusing on ourselves. All of the focus when we deal with narcissists is placed on the narcissist, right? So in triangulation, all of the siblings are speaking through the narcissist. This is the focus is merely on them. A lot of times when we get out of a narcissistic relationship, the focus is on watching YouTube videos about a narcissist, okay? But when we get out of triangulation, it is so important to know that the focus needs to go inward. We have trauma that is attached to our nervous system. We have ruminating thoughts. We have a limbic system trauma loop that is replaying things that have happened to us in our lives over and over again. The focus needs to go inward, okay? So that is really important. We want the focus to go outward. We want to tell everyone. We want to warn everyone. But remember, at that stage, you are working out of your right emotional brain. So your emotions are going, you know, are illuminated. Your logical brain is shut down. That's the time you need to focus inward, okay? Once you get to a point in your healing journey that you feel as if you are grounded, maybe you have done enough work in being mindful, where you have that mind-body connection, you are able to be in the present. Things don't trigger you the way that they used to, and if things do trigger you, you're able to call them out and say what they are, which is a trigger, and you are able to separate that from, you know, your daily life. Okay, so you're able to move past triggers a little bit smoother. Okay, so when you get to that point, then this silence that you have felt like, you know, you feel silenced, like you don't know what to do because narcissists can be charming, they can be powerful, they can have money. Okay, so when we get to this point, we're going to understand that our silence is working against us. It's so important to help other people through this process. So, you know, one way of doing that is by not working out of the emotional brain, but instead working out of the logical brain. Educating other people about narcissistic abuse, about childhood trauma, about bullying, the aftermath, the effects that it has, how people go through complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Maybe you will have a friend who is in a narcissistic relationship and you could be the one to kind of open their eyes to what is happening to them, get them on a healing journey, refer them to someone. This is the kind of thing that we need to do when we're talking about speaking out against narcissists. We need to speak out against narcissistic abuse in general by helping other people through it, because so many people feel the same way we felt. They don't know what it is and they have no idea how to get through it. Okay, so I hope this helped you in a way. I know that being a scapegoat is very difficult, but I just want you to understand that while you are working out of that trauma, that right emotional brain, it is very difficult to get your point across when you're trying to speak out against narcissists. That's the time to go inward and help yourself to heal until you get to a point where you are not working out of that right emotional brain. You are now working out of your left logical brain, and you can actually make decisions as to how you are going to speak out against this and how you can help other people through this process. This will spare you a lot of pain in your healing journey. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helped even just a little bit. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for any future videos on narcissistic abuse recovery and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And as always, I wish you all the love